Great, thanks so much. Today is March 5th, 2025. We have a Medford School Committee meeting for fiscal year 26 budget at 4 p.m. via Zoom. This meeting can be viewed through Medford Community Media on Comcast and Verizon. Participants can log or call in by using the following link or call-in number. The meeting ID is 963-3459-4761. Questions or comments can be submitted during the meeting by emailing medfordsc@medford.k12.ma.us. Those submitting questions or comments must include the following information: your first and last name, your Medford street address, your question or comment. Member Russo, if you please call the roll.
Certainly. Member Bramley,
Present.
Member Graham, Member Graham.
Here. Can you hear me?
You're pretty light, but I just heard you that time.
Okay,
Member
sorry.
Ntapa. Okay. Member Ntapa.
Hey.
Member Ntapa, can you hear? Are you able to unmute?
Oh, he's not a host.
Oh, we're gonna make him a host.
Yes.
I'm here. Thank you.
Great.
Member Olapade.
Here.
Member Reinfeld.
Present.
Member so present. Mayor Longo-Kern.
Present, 7 present, 0 absent. If we all may rise to salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda item number 3 is the MSBA Accelerated Repair Statements of Interest, SOI. Dr. Peter Cushing, Assistant Superintendent. And this is concerning the district's intention to submit a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA Accelerated Program, on behalf of the Roberts, the Missatuck, and the Brooks Elementary Schools. The Medford School Committee is hereby asked to approve 3 separate motions, hereby authorizing the administration to formally submit the statement of interests for the schools listed below under Priority 5, replacement, renovation, and modernization of school facility systems, such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating, and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in school facilities. Number 1 is the Roberts Elementary School roof and heat pump. 2 is Missatuck Elementary School roof and heat pump. And number 3 is Brooks Elementary School roof and heat pump. Dr. Cushing, I don't know if you have anything to add before we take votes and discuss.
No, just appreciate the committee's consideration of this. This window is open now until March 21st, and then we anticipate it will be closed for approximately 2 years. So now is an opportunity to at least get into the pipeline and have the opportunity to make decisions as we move forward with these 3 schools.
Thank you. And then, so the general public's aware, this is the same process we took, just a different category under MSBA as it relates to the work we're doing for the new high school, which we're now excited to share last week that we're in the feasibility study. So this is just the first phase of trying to get that portion of these projects paid for through the MSBA. So I want to thank all that are working on these applications from the chair. Needed projects, of course, as one that has to worry about city and school budgets, it's a lot of work that we are doing on our HVAC and our high school and now these roofs, never mind city side projects, but definitely getting at least 50% reimbursement is something that you just can't pass up trying to do when you've have buildings that are 25 years old at this point, and their roofs are at the life expectancy or going to be there shortly. So thank you. Member Rousseau, then Member Graham.
Thank you. Is there an exact set of language that I should have the motion? And is that why Member Graham has her hand up? That's my question. Thank you.
Yes, there is. Dr. Cushing, this language that you've shared with me, I'm just going to pop in the chat.
Yes.
And I'm happy to read it out loud, but I think the other piece of context for all of this, just so that if anybody else is listening besides the committee that's sort of been through all of this with us, when we looked at the capital plan, which we approved back in December, I believe it was December, in that plan, we made recommendations to pursue these accelerated repair applications when the window opened, because at that time, what we did know is this window is open again for the first time in a while, or I think it was open last year potentially, but was closed to us when we would have needed to use it for the McGlynn Andrews project. And the MSBA is doing a lot to try to combat like the sort of skyrocketing cost of construction across all of their projects, which is what led to them freezing this program. So it seems like it's the first program to freeze when something happens that is unexpected. And I'm glad that we have this window open, that we might be successful with one or multiple of these projects, because at best, if everything goes as planned, this will not come around again for 2 years, which means we would not know an answer for 3 years, which means we're probably looking at 5 years from now that like these things would be repaired and replaced. And I am really worried based on what I hear about the things like the roofs and the HVACs from the process that we've been going through with McGlynn and doing these mini assessments to figure out how to submit these applications, that sometime between now and 5 years from now, like we are going to be looking at all of these projects as non-optional projects. So I know Dr. Cushing has been like really hustling to get this done in collaboration with some of the team that is working on McGlynn Andrews, and just sort of trying to position us to take advantage of a potential grant. So thank you, Dr. Cushing, for doing that. And I will, I'll read this and I will also pop it in the chat. This is.
And Member Graham, just real quick, Member Graham, if I can, I apologize for interrupting. This language that is going to be read is extraordinarily specific and prescribed to the largest extent, where specific things have been put in around the priority, the address of the school, things like that. But otherwise, the language is prescribed by MSBA and specifically taken from their resources.
Thank you. Which made it really easy, so I didn't have to come up with this on my own. So I will make a motion that reads, having convened in an open meeting on March 5th, 2025, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the Medford School Committee of the City of Medford, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 2025 for the Roberts Elementary School, located at what is the exact address?
35 Court Street, I believe.
35?
I think.
Thank you. Court Street, Medford, Mass. 02155, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which the application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Priority 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems, including the roof, which is approaching 25 years old, and the HVAC systems with heat pump technology. This work is being undertaken by the school district in partnership with the City of Medford, as both the heating and cooling systems are in various states of failure. In particular, the cooling systems are unable to maintain a comfortable temperature for staff and students to function at maximum learning capacity. The roof is showing signs of deterioration and wetness, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits Medford Public Schools of the City of Medford to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. And here it comes in the chat.
I am forever grateful you didn't expect me to type that up as you went.
Although it's not letting me send it.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
Do you
too
see?
long.
Oh, geez. Guess there's a limit.
Member Graham, would you like me to share the document with Member Russo?
Yes,
It's half and half.
that would be great. It is in a document, so what I just read, we can share with you if that works.
there's a motion on the floor by Member Graham, seconded by
Second,
Member Reinfeld. Roll call, please.
unless that's a problem because I have a child at the Roberts, but
No.
I assume that's fine.
I think it's fine.
Member Branley,
Yes.
Member Graham,
Yes.
Member Intapa,
Yes.
Member Olapate,
Yes.
Member Reinfeldt,
Yes,
Member Rousseau, yes, Mayor Longo Kern.
I also have a student at the Roberts, but I'm going to vote in favor of all three. So yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Motion passes.
Is Missituck next?
Oh, each one is
Yes, Missituck Elementary roof and heat pump is next. I'm assuming same sort of resolution.
Yeah, it's the same exact resolution. I can read it again. Having convened an open meeting on March 5th, 2025. Prior to the SOI submission closing date, the Medford City Council of the city of, sorry, this is the wrong one. Hold on, I'm in the wrong place. Sorry. Brooks. Here we go. The Medford School Committee of the City of Medford, in accordance with its charter bylaws and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit the Massachusetts School Building Authority Statement of Interest form dated March 2025 for the Missituck Elementary School, located 37 Hicks Avenue, Medford, Mass. 02155. Which describes and explains the following deficiencies and priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Priority 5 is replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems, including the roof, which is approaching 25 years old, and the HVAC systems with heat pump technology. The work is being undertaken by the school district in partnership with the City of Medford, as both the heating and cooling systems are in various states of failure. In particular, the cooling systems are unable to maintain a comfortable temperature for staff and students to function at maximum learning capacity. The roof is showing signs of deterioration and wetness. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, any funding commitment to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits Medford Public Schools of the City of Medford to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Motion by Member Graham, Member Rousseau.
I'm in the document. There seem to be duplicates for each school.
That's because there's votes that have to be taken by the council as well. So you just need to go to the school committee section.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll second it though.
Motion for approval by Member Graham, seconded by Member Rousseau. Roll call, please.
Member Branley,
Yes.
Member Graham,
Yes.
Member Intapa,
Yes.
Member Olapate,
Yes.
Member Reinfeldt,
yes,
Member Rousseau, yes, Mayor Longo Kern.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. A motion passes. And on to number 3, which is Brooks Elementary School roof and heat pump. Member Graham.
Having convened an open meeting on March 5th, 2025, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the Medford School Committee of the City of Medford, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority a statement of interest form dated March 2025 for the Brooks Elementary School, located at 388 High Street, Medford, Mass. 02155. Which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Priority 5 is replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems, including the roof, which is approaching 25 years old, and the HVAC systems with heat pump technology. This work is being undertaken by the district in partnership with the City of Medford, as both the heating and cooling systems are in various states of failure. In particular, the cooling systems are unable to maintain a comfortable temperature for students and staff to function at maximum learning capacity. The roof is showing signs of deterioration and wetness. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the Medford Public Schools of the City of Medford to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Motion to approve.
By Member Rousseau, seconded by
Second.
Member Reinfeld. Roll call, please.
Member Brantley.
Yes.
Member Graham.
Yes.
Member Antapa.
Yes.
Member Olapati.
Yes.
Member Reinfeld.
Yes.
Member Rousseau, yes. Mayor Longo-Kern.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Motion passes. Thank you,
And
everybody.
just a note for everybody that these do also need to be approved by the council, and Dr. Cushing is working on a submission to them in time for their meeting next week.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Cushing. Next up, we have the fiscal year 26 budget areas of Chapter 90 revolving funds, enrollment projections, and class size. So I'll turn it over to our budget analyst, Mr. Gerald McHugh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to attempt to share my screen, and here we go.
At the bottom right, Jerry, next to the slider. Okay, it's always hard.
All right. Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so for this meeting, I'm going to give an overview of what we found for enrollment projections for next year, how that translates into class sizes projected, a brief overview of Chapter 70 budget, and kind of how we divided up the override questions. And then I'm going to go through kind of the initial asks from all the principals and directors in the school system. And there's going to be a lot there, and the bottom line is going to be a little eye-popping, but we're not suggesting that we're going to attempt to fund everything that was asked for, but we do want to encourage principals and directors to not be shy about stating what they think they need for their program.
Jerry,
the
do you want us
first-
to save questions till the end?
I guess I did allow for some time for questions at the end, but I suppose, if there's
by
need for
section?
clarification, that it might make sense to interrupt.
And sorry, while I'm here, will we get a copy of this? I don't think it was in our, great,
Yes,
thank you.
we'll get it up on the website tomorrow. So we're predicting an increase in kindergarten enrollment, and of course that's just a best guess. But I did note that there was 699 births in Medford for the year that the kindergarten class is entering. I took an average of the percent of births in the prior 3 years that translated into kindergarten enrollment. And then I made my projections based on that. So, we'll of course keep an eye on that, through the registration process. But we are proposing, to have sufficient teachers to handle that increase in enrollment. So the enrollment by grade, it's somewhat stable, although there's been this history in recent years where one kindergarten is high and then the next year the kindergarten is low. And then as these grades progress through the elementary, there's ups and downs. But we'll get to the total enrollment, and it's somewhat stable. This will necessitate principals to kind of move their teaching staff around, because some, they might have had 4 grade 2s this year, and they only have 3 grade 3s next year, but one of those second grade teachers will probably have to move to grade 3, unless they still needed 4 in grade 2. So we've accounted for that. So there's your middle school grades and the high school. And then I took a cut by school as well. So Roberts is really large. So that's something that we should be keeping an eye on. And the rest of the schools are pretty close to what they had this year. And some of that increased kindergarten enrollment is driving up that number for them slightly. And then here's the middle schools are pretty stable. And then the high school we expect will increase a little bit because of the 9th grade coming in. And the Curtis Tufts will be somewhat stable this year. And that really depends on, that's based on students we know about. And there could be other students assigned to Curtis Tufts during the FY26 school year. And then these are the totals for the last 3 years, are actual as of October 1. And then based on the October 1, 24 enrollment, we use that as a baseline to form a projection for FY26. So about 34 students. Let's see, it's an increase of about 65 students. 34 is from that kindergarten enrollment, 23 is from the high school, and then the rest is kind of sprinkled around throughout the remaining schools. So we did class size, after I got some feedback from the principals this year, we changed a little bit how we're doing class size, because I wasn't originally taking into account students that are mainstreamed in specialist classes. So we tried this methodology this year where we took the number of regular ed grades in the school for a particular grade and then divided it by the total student enrollment. And that will make sure that the specialists will have a reasonable caseload. And these are, I think, compared to other school districts I know about, these are pretty generous class sizes, I think. For Chapter 70, as we found out, kind of the basis for the override was the conclusion that the Chapter 70 budget and Chapter 70 the foundation budget and the Chapter 70 state aid really do not provide Medford with the funds they need to run their district. So there's a right now this is based on the governor's budget. Chapter 70 for Medford will increase by $338,000. That's based on many school districts actually get the minimum state funding. They don't qualify for Chapter 70 aid, as is the case with Medford. So typically governors have begun this process by giving $30 per student. Governor Healy constructed her budget based on $75 per student. And if my memory serves, last year at the conclusion of the state budget process, it was up to about $104 per pupil. So hopefully that number will rise and give the city a little bit of extra funding to offset their appropriation in the school department.
Barry,
Yes,
I don't know if you can see the question from the mayor, but should that actually say FY25 and FY26?
Yeah, I didn't know if that was, sorry.
yes,
Okay, because you
Yeah,
said
right.
it will be going up, so.
yeah.
Thought fiscal year 25 were finalized
Yeah, I think I used last year's
slides. Okay,
template, and I did forget, but I'll fix that at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
okay, great, thank you.
And so then we had the ballot questions this year, and thanks to the voters of Medford coming to the rescue, providing $7 million in additional budget authority for Medford Public Schools. Question 7 provided $3 million for kind of general school expenses, and $4 million was dedicated towards the creation of a high school schedule, along with providing funds for teacher and paraprofessional compensation. So how this got divided up is we were grateful to the mayor and the city council who advanced $1,750,000 to the school department to kind of finalize our school budget last year, and it prevented further cuts. Everybody can remember there were a lot of cuts that had to be made in last year's budget. So the city was willing to take a risk and provide those funds up front, and hoping that the override would pass, which it did. So of the 7 million, that 1.7 was retained so it could go to fund the amount of money that the city already provided to the school department. And that left $5,250,000 to add to the budget. So basically this year we're working with a budget of $83 million. And last year, I know the school committee was very interested in some of the special revenue funds that we have. So I'm going to try to quickly go through the list of these items. So we have federal grants. You'll see I have a column for FTEs funded, and I haven't got to that yet. But particularly with the federal grants, those grants are at risk, as many of you are aware. So we really have to get a handle of who we're funding off of these grants and just be prepared in the event that funding is cut. But that will be part of the budget narrative when you get the budget document. So we have our ESSER group, Title I, Title IIA. Title I, is for reading and math instruction. Title IIA is professional development, and maybe is it class size? You can use it for class size reduction. Title III is for our EL program. And then we have this student support, academic enrichment.
Saturday Academy.
That's the Saturday Academy. Terrific. Okay. And then the VOC program has the Perkins grant. Special ed has the IDEA. We have a significant special needs population, which is why this amount is so high, and this funds teachers and medical contracts, other types of contracts that are needed for our special needs students, and out-of-district tuition. We got, there was a new IEP being mandated to be implemented. So we did receive some funds to implement that new IEP. And then we get a separate IDEA funding that supports the preschool program. Then this year we got vacation acceleration academies, and Molly Lorden spearheaded an effort to take advantage of a cybersecurity grant that was available earlier this year. And we, in fact, were awarded it. Our Health Services Department receives Comprehensive School Health Services Grant from DPH. And then we are a fiscal agent for Medford Family Network, and they receive a federal grant, Coordinated Family and Community Engagement. And then we had a small grant to support proficiency outcomes for our EL students. And then the state kicked in another $5,500 for that federal grant that we got. We also had qualify for reimbursement for a portion of our out-of-district tuitions and transportation over a certain amount. Any tuition that's over a certain amount of money that's based on your foundation per pupil amount, 75% of that difference is eligible for reimbursement from the state. So our special education department prepares an initial claim every year, and then we get reimbursement based on that claim. And then in the last quarter, there's a reconciliation to get the actual student costs lined up with what we already received. And we also get reimbursed for our homeless transportation. And we've never budgeted this, but this year I want to utilize some of these funds to offset our homeless transportation budget. So I think we can free up maybe 300,000 or all the way to 391 to kind of offset the homeless transportation in the general fund, and that that provides us a little bit of relief to address other needs in the budget. We have private grants. We have the Crystal Campbell Betterment Project. Cummings Foundation provides money for the Center of Civic and Social Responsibility. They also receive donations from the public, so that's in a third account. We have a scholarship in the memory of Leah Caleri Clark. We help the Medford Education Foundation manage the distribution of funds to our teachers that apply for grants through the Medford Education Foundation. Another private grant is Children's Trust for Medford Family Network. That is in a deficit, but it's mainly we're still kind of unraveling accounting problems with that. They have several pots of money, and then they have people could be funded over 2 or 3 different pots, and if that's not executed perfectly, then you can get this situation. But this grant is well managed by the person that's assigned to it, so I'm not concerned about that right now. And by the way, these funds are only through the end of February, and it's being compared to a full year's worth of funding from FY24. And then Medford Family Network also does some fundraising, and that goes into their gift account. And then the school department receives gifts and donations, various at various times, and it goes into this account as well. And then for our revolving funds, oh, okay.
Right, just to clarify, that's the balance, right? That's not the spending on it.
Yes, it's not the spending.
Thank you.
It's just what's available after the spending.
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to, you know, maybe at a different time we could kind of take a deeper dive into the revolving funds, and we could get. Yeah, I mean, I have a history of revenue and spending for each
No,
of
I
these accounts.
just wanted to make sure that was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the spending. That's a good question. And the other thing about revolving funds is that the expenses hit right away, but the revenue typically lags because of reporting. It comes through a lot of fees come through the website, and then they have to be downloaded here at the school department, prepare a report that has to go up to City Hall. City Hall has to match it up with a deposit they received, and then it gets into the admin system. So the revenue does lag behind, and the balances at the end of the year, you know, will reflect all the revenue that was collected. Let's see. So some of these, I mean, you're familiar with the early education program in Medford is fee-based, school lunch is fee-based. That those balances are down mainly for the reason that I talked to you about it, but it's also the school lunch director is really doing a good job replacing equipment and updating equipment, utilizing those revolving funds. School athletics, driver's ed, we charge students if they break their Chromebook or they lose their Chromebook. At one time we accepted students from out of district down at the Curtis Tufts, and we charge tuition. So we do still have balance in that account, which we use to charge one of the individuals teaching there. Kids Corner, again, that's a situation where the revenue lags the actual spending. But there's another thing that we're working on right now is that we've always had this practice of holding slots for employees, and sometimes, you know, if you have a very efficient soon-to-be mom, she's on the phone 4 or 5 months ahead of when she needs it to make sure she gets a slot. And the budget is really based on almost full utilization of all the seats. So that's creating a little bit of a problem with the revenue projections that we're trying to address now for next year.
Jerry?
Yes.
Yes, Member Russo.
Thank you. The shore tuition going up is confusing because I didn't think we had Shore occupying any classrooms. So was there money that Shore owed us and we just got it?
Yeah, so it went in. What typically happens when you have out of district students in your district, you can set up a revolving fund. And so this is a balance from back in the day when we collected tuition for those students. And little by little, we've been kind of spending it down. So you see it goes from 176 at the end of 24. It's down to 98 as of February.
Oh, there's an error. The 176 is 176,000.
Oh, that should be a
It's a
comma.
comma.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was confused by that. Okay, thank you.
Good catch.
There's no more revenue coming into that account. And that's also the same for vocational tuition as well. I think the last student that we have from out of district is a senior this year. And then, of course, we have the before and after school program, the Edgeley Field. Now, these next two accounts, one, you know, in community schools, I don't know when the decision was made, but it was before my time, but I'm sure it was necessary to get through a tough budget year. But the um, director of athletics and his administrative assistant are charged to community schools. And it could have been that there were like sufficient uh, funds in that year to be able to do that. And of course, the director of athletics does have responsibility for scheduling the people that rent our school buildings. But it's really unsustainable because we don't have the rent coming in to cover those salaries anymore. So I think what we'll try to do before the budget is finalized is figure out some kind of allocation method where it kind of makes sense for the director to be charged a portion to Edgerly Field, a portion to community schools, and a portion to the general fund. And the same for his administrative assistant. And that will provide some relief to this revolving fund. And in the pool, they're doing a little bit better, as you can see from the deficit is going down, but we did change the rates at the beginning of the year, so that's helped. The other thing that I've done, one thing that also may be unsustainable in the pool is that the use of the pool by our own students is important, but it's right now is being absorbed into this fund, which doesn't have the money. So we can either, so right now, I directed the pool director to fund the chemicals that are used in the pool. We're funding those out of the facilities department right now to kind of compensate for the school use. But going forward, we might have to figure out some kind of allocation on the general fund to support the pool. And then finally, the Medford Family Network also has a revolving fund that they call the parent-child account. Do you want me to, that was a lot. Do you want to, let me see. Yeah, we're going to get into kind of all the different asks in the next few slides. I don't know if we want to stop and entertain any questions so far.
I just have a question from the chair if I don't see any hands raised. In the CFO world and maybe the superintendent too, where are we at with the federal uncertainty and how our schools, taking that into account and budgeting? I know us mayors are talking about it on the city side mainly, but I have recently learned that there's a city or two that are nervous enough to be, it is going to be, affecting their budgets. So I just didn't know where we are because you did have a slide with all the federal monies and grant monies that come in, and is there any of them that are of concern? Are we hearing any word on any of them that they might be cut or reduced or anything like that? It's just so we can keep an eye on it.
I haven't heard any specifics. We definitely have to keep an eye on it. I'll try to budget some money in undesignated salaries to maybe address 3 or 4 positions. What's unclear is whether the grants are going to be completely eliminated, or are they simply eliminating the bureaucracy and giving the money or some portion of the money directly to the states? So, we'll just have to see what direction they go in. But these are grants that affect every community, red states, blue states, urban, rural. It's just there'll be a lot of pushback, I think, if this attempts to cut them completely. So
Yeah.
when you hear about, cutting, eliminating the Department of Education, it's possible that these programs will just move over to the United States Treasury and will be dispersed from there. Did you want to say?
I was only going to just follow up that, the title grants are the ones that fall under ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act. They are the ones that are linked to the competency determination and our compliance with making sure that we are compliant to the state standards and frameworks. Right now, for Title I in Medford, we are using it solely for early literacy and reading skills at the elementary level. And to Jerry's point, Title II is a lot around professional development and learning. We do fund some consultancies in there. Some of that funding is used to help us continue our partnership with Hill for Literacy. Title III, as he said, is through Paul Texera. Title IV is a lot of stipends and use to, as it's stated here, support students. And a lot of our fiscal 25 funding went to help with the high school Saturday Academy. The only thing that I would say, there's definitely a lot of conversation going on, a lot of monitoring of the current situation. There has been no change, but there is definitely some rhetoric around maybe, just fear in if districts and states are not compliant with federal mandates and executive orders. The threat is that this is the type of things that they will remove from funding districts federally. So of course it warrants monitoring, but at this time, there's no change.
Thank you, Dr. Galusi. And Member Graham?
Thank you. I just, I got a couple of questions related to this from a constituent, and on the same day I saw one of our MASC representatives post about this very topic. So I just dug up her post and I'm going to put it in the chat to sort of frame, like, how does money come to us? Like, there's very little money that comes directly to us, directly from the feds. I just thought this was like a helpful context. Oh, it's too big. I'm just going to give you the Facebook link, I guess, because I can't give you the whole quote. I find her to be very helpful and factual in her understanding of how school funding works. Like, she's sort of a legend in Massachusetts, and she should be in a much more broad way than that. I don't know if that will actually take you to her post, but let me, I will send it to you all separately. And her name is Tracy O'Connell Novick, and she is a wealth of information. So I can happy to read it to you all, but she basically, she says that something I see a lot, perhaps, of people perhaps simply not knowing how federal aid to school districts works. In the vast majority of cases, federal aid to school districts flows through state ed agencies. There are some exceptions, and this doesn't, for example, speak to DoD schools or the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Districts are not on their own, though, for the most part. Your federal aid is conditioned on written agreements between the state and federal governments. There is no tap that runs directly to your school district, and thus this isn't every little school district's fight. The world changes like every minute right now, but that is helpful context. So for all of our wishes about what DESE might do differently in the world right now, I think we're all on that same side.
Thank you.
But just I do think that's important to also note, though, because there is a difference, right, between competitive grants and non-competitive grants. And most, not all, but most of these grants that Jerry is highlighting, we receive an allocation based on our demographics, our enrollment. And so we're kind of assigned the amount that we have to work with and budget for in the various categories.
Okay, so let's, I wanted just to give you an idea of what the principals and program directors have been asking. We've made some tentative decisions on things we might include in the budget, but it's very limited right now. We know we're going to have, we have to provide a reserve for our collective bargaining agreements, and we do have teachers, we do have staff that are under agreement with the collective bargaining that will have an increase next year. That has to be accounted for. And most people have step increases, or a lot of people have step increases that also have to be accounted for too. So once that's taken care of, then we can kind of address some of these other needs. And this is kind of right now where I'm at. There's still a handful of budgets that I really haven't gone through with a fine-tooth comb, but we keep in mind that the numbers that you're looking at is not a budget number, it's the increase over FY25. So we're anticipating we'll have to increase our reserve for expiring collective bargaining agreements by 1.3 million. We've already plugged in FY26 salaries for everybody. If they are under a collective bargaining agreement in FY26, we used whatever's proposed for that employee for FY26. If they're not, we're using their current amount, and those funds are provided on that first line under our reserve. We have a handful of unforeseen expenses that we had to add to FY25 after the budget was approved, and I'll go through that list with you. We have, tentatively sought to include some new spending, and then I'll go through the list I wanted to see just to give you an idea of what's being asked for. Is kind of to be determined, that totals 2.7 million right now. And there's no expectation that we're going to be able to fund everything that was asked for, but all the expenses will be evaluated. Some of the asks, it may behoove us to wait until a new salary schedule, new school schedules are established. So I'm going to switch to a different spreadsheet. So I'm going to stop sharing this one, and no. Sorry, I picked the wrong one. Here it is. Okay, so this is a new spending that we've included so far, and again, we kind of reserve the right to take some of these off if we have to balance the budget. But we do want to increase our capacity in our tech area. We identified this year every single software application that we're using, and it totals close to $800,000 worth of annual licenses. So we know that our students and staff are using a lot of this technology for research, for instruction, for professional development, for keeping track of our students with demographic information, keeping track of their grades and things like that. So, we have to have a reliable network. And what this will do is that the kind of the network support is within the group of people that are under Molly Layden that support the school, the teachers, and the students with getting their computers running, their printers running. So we intend to keep that same number of positions. This gives us an extra position that can deal exclusively with network issues, and we'll be able to serve the staff and students better in the school with the complement of staff that we have there. And then we have, aging servers and uninterrupted power supplies. These power supplies would keep our computers running in the event of a power outage, and a lot of them don't work or they're beyond their life expectancy. We have a separate project going to replace air conditioning that's in the computer rooms at each school too. So a lot of those are out, and of course that creates a very risky situation when those rooms heat up too much. We do think we have sufficient teachers to implement those class sizes that I showed you earlier, except we would need another elementary teacher at the Brooks. So we're kind of a little bit back and forth whether we should hold back on that and wait until we get closer to the start of the school year to see if those additional students materialize. But right now we're suggesting that we want to go forward with that position. Yeah, I had a meeting with the principals and we went over the number of teachers they have per class. So I know there was a concern with the Miskatonic. In fact, that will be on the list that I showed you. But I believe all the teachers that the principals need in the elementary schools are provided for in the budget right now. And we can go, if you wanted to see kind of details about how many classrooms we have at each grade at each school, we can certainly go through that at another time. The world language director asked for a stipend to provide a French 2 course. An existing teacher would pick up an extra section to do that. Of course, with the new schedule, there may be no need for that. They might be able to be absorbed. We'll keep an eye on that. When we approved our compensation plan for hourly rates, we identified security monitors as a possible security monitor substitutes as a possible need. So this will provide a small budget, at least initially, if we utilize a daily sub for security monitor. And we're expanding the number of students that can take the PSAT. Sophomores and juniors, I think at all sophomores and juniors, I think are contemplated to take the PSAT next year. And so that requires an increase to that subsidy of $2,000. The current budget's $4,000. Now for budget adjustments, these are, let me see if I can make this a little bigger. So these are things, for operations we had, because of, we had students move into the district that required one-on-one paras that come to the district with IEPs. And we had to put on 3 one-on-one paras at the Missatuck, and an additional special ed para at the Roberts. We currently fund lunch monitors in the lunch fund, which is not appropriate. We will get written up by DESE if we haven't already done so. So we'll propose to bring those salaries onto the general fund. We have 2 pieces of software that no longer eligible for grant funding that are integral to our instruction. One is ST Math software, and the other is the MAP assessment program that we will have to provide for in the general fund next year. This year, to deal with vacancies and illnesses at the vocational school, we added a building sub, we added an academic lead, I think, to support the vocational program, and that is working very well right now. And so we're proposing that we add that to the budget next year, or we fix it. We also have frequently used daily subs in the health services program, but we don't really have a budget for that. So we're going to establish a budget in FY26 for those needs. For security monitors, 1 security monitor was added this year because we have 1 night shift building monitor at the high school, and we weren't able to provide that building monitor with work-free dinner at the appropriate time. We also had some concerns with coverage over on the pool side, on a door on that side. So we added a building monitor for that purpose. And then in reviewing the staff, so we take a kind of look, we look at, the FTEs that were authorized in FY25 versus what we actually have in the payroll, and a additional security monitor popped up at the high school. So through miscommunication, I think that a position got filled that didn't really exist. So we're kind of evaluating, how we want to deal with that second position right now. But 1 is definitely needed. And then, as I said, we went through all the instructional software that's used throughout the building and throughout the school system. And these, as these became available, my guess is that people would just kind of figure out accounts they already had that they might have some slack in a particular year to fold in software. So sometimes it was charged to textbooks, sometimes it was charged to instructional supplies, sometimes to contract services. But for end of year reporting, it should be reported under a category that's called instructional software. So we've identified all those, and for what we need to get those accounts right-sized, we would have to add $58,000 to various accounts over the school system to make sure that that software is fully funded. Excuse me.
Jerry, if I may ask a
Yes.
question. I know every year the city adds like a position or two, and then the schools is moving things around and maybe does the same, adds several positions. This year we're adding quite a few more than that, obviously, because of the overrides. Are you budgeting at all on the school side for the 20,000 plus per person it costs for insurance, or is that something that would be doing on the city side? Just pointing it out because I know the
Yeah.
school side alone is 11, maybe 11.5 million for insurance.
Right. Yeah, well, I think the practice here, Mayor, is that was always accounted for on the city side. But, you know, we could have a conversation if you wanted. These people are already on the payroll, so they're already baked into FY25.
Okay, on this page.
yeah.
This page, and I know there's been a few others with new proposed positions, so that's why I think it's gonna be more than usual with the overrides. So I just wanted to point that out because it's just a large expense for a city and school that I think we do take on the city side. So I didn't know if you were budgeting that 20,000 or so or more per person per new hire.
We are not yet, but you would have the increase in the Chapter 70 to help support that.
Okay.
And I don't think at the end of the day, the question 8 was really to address compensation, so not to add people. And then question 7, the 3 million is basically stabilizing some of these budgets. Like, this is how we're, fully funding our instructional software and looking at, facilities maintenance and, the needs of our technology. So I think you'll find that we're not really in a position to add a lot of new staff, in my mind right now.
Okay, thank you.
And so I wanted to just kind of give you an idea of what the principals and directors were asking for. At the high school, the principal would like to start, she asked for funds for Acceleration Academy, and I think we have that covered. Is that covered in the grant? That's a Saturday.
The Saturday Academy has been, yes.
Okay.
Not this.
Not the Acceleration Academy. She's very interested in establishing an alternative program at the high school. In that, this program would be similar to the Curtis Tufts, but different from the Curtis Tufts. These would students that don't have identified special needs, but need smaller groups and kind of a little extra therapeutic support. And she does have a grand vision for this program, but what we are looking at is kind of more or less a pilot, and start out with a small group of students and see how that works out. And there'd be a lead stipend attached to kind of take care of some administrative duties within that and more funds for the summer school, an advisory curriculum. I guess this would be a curriculum committee for SEL, whiteboards. She'd like to add funds for bathroom duty, but that's something that, I haven't taken a look at yet. And you'll see she asked for a number of positions which are listed under the directors, but an art teacher, band teacher, which we took care of in the supplemental, theater teacher, 3 world language teachers, and we'll give a few more details in a minute on those, and then 2 engagement specialists that would support working with the students and address attendance and behavior. At the Vogue program, we more or less took care of a lot of their asks through the supplemental. He is looking for an assistant due to increases in his program, in enrollment in his program, and just somebody to help out with the administrative duties at the vocational school. The Andrews principal asked for a full or part-time special ed reading teacher and was looking for either a para or a behavior specialist to run a in-school suspension program with a restorative practices curriculum. At the McGlynn, we did talk about the administrative assistant position, and that got added in the supplemental. He is also looking for funds to utilize a guidance counselor to help with the schedule over the summer. The Missatuck asked for grade 2, which we've provided for. The Roberts was looking for special ed reading teacher, a BCBA, and a math interventionist. The ELA director asked if we consider 2 literacy interventionists at each middle school. The world language director was interested in restoring 1 Spanish teacher that was cut in 25, and then adding a 2nd Spanish teacher to expand offerings, and to, sorry, there's a typo there, but to create a sign language strand within her department as well. And then the extra section for French 2, which we've tentatively signed off on. And then we, for math, we have this ST math that we're bringing into the general fund next year. She did offer to reduce her supply line because based on her needs, that they're well, they have less of a need for textbooks and supplies because of the technology that's used. The athletics, I haven't been able to go through, and I will within the next few days, but they've been typically running over their budget. So I want to look at, how we can structure that account to figure out what are we going to charge to the athletic revolving fund, and then what do we want to provide for in the general fund budget. The food service director provided for new appliances at the various schools, and she has sufficient funding in her revolving fund for that. Visual and performing arts would like to add an art teacher. And again, this was kind of thinking similar to world language, that there might be a need for more of these types of sections when the new schedule gets created, but that I think is to be determined. We restored the band teacher at the high school. She also asked that the theater teacher be restored, and have a part-time elementary band teacher, and then increase her supply line by $4,000, which I think is, has merit. At the buildings and grounds, we added, when we finally settled the Teamsters contract, we were able to add 2 swing stiff custodians, and that's been helpful in keeping the overtime down. But the budget had already been passed by the time that labor agreement got worked out, so we added those in the supplemental along with an assistant director for buildings and grounds. And we still have to do some analysis on the cleaning contract, the maintenance lines, and the utility lines to make sure that those are sufficiently funded. In curriculum instruction, we talked about the MAP and the ST math. That MAP really should be 38,000, I think, not 45. But all this will continue to be gone over, before we finalize the budget. For special ed tuition and transportation, we kind of got lucky. There was a increase of about $600,000 in special ed tuition. But because we did not use all our circuit breaker money this year, we have some bandwidth to offset those increases with circuit breaker money that we will receive in FY25, and then some will receive in FY26. So right now I have this line item as being level funded, but it really would have put a hole in the budget if we had to come up with that. We had a number of new students this year that came to the district that needed an outside placement, but we do have a couple of residential placements that are aging out next year, so that helped. Same thing with transportation, and here's my guess on how this happened. But as I was going through the budget this year, well, again, I'm thinking about yellow bus. So for special ed, we had a significant increase this year. And then the next 2 years are smaller increases. We entered into a 3-year contract with North Reading Transportation. And we'll be able to utilize some balances in circuit breaker to offset those increases in special ed transportation, which as of a couple of years ago, the circuit breaker now takes into account transportation as well. So transportation is eligible for that reimbursement. The special education department has a program that they call Project Transition, and it's for students that have completed high school but will still be with us until they turn 21. And so they've never really had a budget to work with. They've kind of cobbled together different amounts of money from different sources, and including, parents' generosity, etc. So this year we decided it's very small money for a very worthwhile program. So we'll continue to we'll provide for that in FY26. And the director at the Curtis Tufts asked if she could have her own supply budget, which is fine. Again, it's short money, but it kind of gives her a little more ownership of to meet her needs. Before that, she would just typically go to the special ed office and try to get funds from the administrative office for her supplies. She also asked that if we could make sure it was always intended that the floater would provide some administrative support to the director. So, but what was missing was a consistent day during the week where she could kind of rely on that person to come down. So we're trying to work out the scheduling of that so we can make that happen. And then the special ed director wants to review the access program at the McGlynn Middle to look at staffing. There's some concerns with possibly growing enrollment in that program next year. And we do have more special needs students that require year-round programming. So the budget, which is around $280,000 right now, is projected to increase to about 330 some odd in 26. The EL program is fine. And Mayor, to your earlier question, this is another area that we have to look at because of the nature of that program and the families that are coming to Medford to be in that program. So if you remember last year, we had a significant EL enrollment in kindergarten in FY24, and we provided for 2 EL teachers at grade 1 to accommodate those students. And speaking with the director, we'll move that second teacher into grade 2 for next year, and then we'll keep an eye on enrollment as we go forward. The health services, we did add a nurse in the supplemental. They were requesting a health record system that is really good. The designers of the system like to say, made by nurses for nurses, and that this is going to help a lot with the reporting that they have to do with DPH, because the software is designed to do that. And we'll get this in the first year of this grant, the cost of the application and the implementation. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to integrate this application into the SchoolBrains system. And then we will have to pick this up in FY27. It will no longer be grant eligible. And then she did ask that her laptops be refreshed with MacBooks, and we completed that a couple of weeks ago, at least completed the ordering. So that's going forward this year. Guidance requested that the 2 counselors cut at the middle school be restored, possibly add a college and career counselor, maybe as a stipend position, but somebody that could take the lead on the needs of those students that require those services. We talked about adding to the PSAT subsidy. So a lot of students can pay for their own, but some students need a little bit of support in order to take that. And that support comes out of this account. And then she also, I don't know if you're familiar with recovery high schools, but they're a little bit like a special needs outplacement, but they usually have students that are referred that have substance issues. And I don't think we need to put a placeholder in, because I think we'd probably be able to cover it, but it is expensive. But we haven't, there hasn't been a need for that for the last couple of years either. The director of library media suggested that we hire a district-wide library assistant. So a few years back, the assistants accepted the high school were eliminated in favor of having full-time librarians in each library. But there is some need to collect books and get them back on the shelves and log in new books, some kind of like low-level administrative duties that could support the librarians and takes time away from their teaching assignments and other things they have to do in the library. So for other operational, we're looking at a position to kind of provide leadership in the technology area. So this is something that we still haven't fully figured out, but our technology is kind of spread over different departments, and it really needs to be organized in the same way facilities is organized, so that people can be making sure that servers are refreshed on a timely basis and power supplies, and we're up to date on the latest releases for security reasons. So that is under discussion. There was some discussion earlier, do we need to somehow support our diversity needs in the school department? We rely on the city and their person, and so we're taking a look at, whether it makes sense to have our own or work something out with the city. So as I said before, the community schools, without the Edgerly account being involved, it would cost $127,000 to kind of allocate to salaries on a 60-40 basis, 60% to the general fund. But I need to sit down with the athletic director to kind of get a better handle on the time he spends in each of these programs. At the beginning of the school year, we established a city year program in 2 schools. So we're thinking about whether or not we should continue those programs into FY26. We did, as happened last year, we had, in order to deal with a severe budget situation in FY24, there were a number of paras that were shifted to the before and after school program. And it really, that's not, it's something that was necessary to do that year, but we should be working to undo that and get those people back on the general fund. I will say that through attrition, we've kind of whittled it down. I think there's 17 paras that are on this revolving fund. So it might be that we don't need to move 5, but we should probably try to move a couple at least and kind of keep an eye on that in the future years. And then we've talked about as part of overall technology organization, whether we have a need for a high school registrar. I think there was one at the high school a few years back, but I think our position right now is we're going to wait until we have a vacancy in a data reporting position. So we want to get that filled and get that person up to speed so that person could support a new registrar if we wanted to go forward with that position. So does anyone have any questions on that list or where we're at?
No, thank you so much for the presentation, Mr. McHugh. Very detailed. Any questions from the committee? And if not, we can move on to our last agenda item. I know I have a 6 Affordable Housing Trust meeting as well, so just throwing it out there that I have to leave around 6. So if there's no questions, thank you for the presentation. And I think you said you were gonna send it to us by email as well, so that
Yes.
we have it and can further review.
Yep.
Will we get this list that you just went through here as well? That would be really helpful to see what people want.
Yeah, let me see. It's kind of embedded in a large spreadsheet, but I could probably print it out and, PDF it and,
Even just this tab, I think would be really helpful.
yeah.
Great,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. Hearing and seeing no further questions. Thank you, Mr. McHugh. We're going to move on to number 5, which is our executive session portion. On motion to enter into executive sessions pursuant to Mass General Laws 30A, Section 21A. Executive session of the Medford School Committee to conduct a strategy session on the basis that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining positions of the Medford School Committee. Specifically, the Medford School Committee will be discussing ongoing collective bargaining negotiations with administrators and the Medford Teachers Association.
That's right.
Is there a motion? And we
Motion to
will,
enter executive session?
and we will not, the Medford School Committee will not convene in public session after the executive session. Motion by Member Reinfeld, seconded by
Second.
Member Intapa. Roll call, please.
Member Brandley,
Yes.
Member Graham,
Yes.
Member Intapa,
Yes.
Member Olapati,
Yes.
Member Reinfeld,
Yes.
Member Rousseau, yes, Mayor Langokern.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Motion to go into executive session has been approved. Have a good night, everybody that's watching from home.